About a year ago, I put out a video discussing the order I'd purchase each of the Cities Skylines DLCs in if I were buying the game right now. Since then, another DLC has been released and I have played through each DLC one by one, which has caused my perspective to change a bit. In this video, we are going to rank each DLC to see which is the most important to buy. To do this, we are going to score the DLCs on a number of categories. I'll give each DLC up to 20 points for replayability, 15 points for fun and functionality, 10 points for the assets that they include, and 5 points for the maps included in the DLC. So the maximum score for any DLC will be 50 points. It's important to keep in mind that each of the DLCs was introduced alongside new functionality in the base game, and because this functionality is free for everyone, I will not be judging the DLCs based on the free functionality added alongside of them. So without any further ado, let's dive in the order that the DLCs were released. After Dark was the first DLC released for Cities Skylines. The focus of this DLC is nightlife and tourism, which are accentuated by the day-night cycle brought to the main game when the expansion was released. The DLC adds 2 commercial specializations, leisure and tourism, which include 20 new growable assets, 6 service buildings, 5 unique buildings, 8 parks, and 5 new road types. It also introduces bicycling as a game mechanic. Interestingly, it is the only DLC that does not come with any new maps. The functionality that came with this DLC is absolutely amazing. You'll use biking in every single build that you put together and can even create a city around this mechanic. The same goes for both tourism and leisure. Bus stations and cargo hubs are a great addition to the game that I include in most cities that I build. The bus station, for instance, allows you to create a city with an expansive hub-and-spoke bus network that focuses on transfers in key locations. The cargo hub allows you to supplement industry in your city with imports and focus on exports while bringing a ton of life to your waterways and oceans. Though the Airports DLC helps you create larger, more customizable airports, the international airport that comes with After Dark is a great asset in its own right, and for some, it'll be an option that's good enough. These features make the DLC incredibly replayable, one of the most replayable of all the DLCs on the list. That's not to say that everything is perfect with this DLC. The assets that come with the DLC are fine, but it's easy to critique many of them. The growable buildings for leisure are small, and most of the tourism buildings are towering or beachside cafes with nothing in between. The water-based parks often look strange because of the huge piers that are created when you place them, and the unique buildings are kind of random, and their scale isn't great. The zoo is very small, the driving range is fine, but a golf course would have been better, and the taxi stands and depots have always felt underpowered at best, and completely bugged if we're being honest. The DLC, like I mentioned, comes with no maps, which is a shame because all the rest of the DLCs do. Overall, this is a great DLC and one of my absolute favorites. We're giving it a score of 37 out of 50. Next up is Snowfall, which was the second DLC release for the game. The main selling feature of this DLC is the new winter weather system, which is available on winter maps only. The expansion includes 6 service buildings, 11 unique buildings, 11 parks, and 5 new roads, all related to trams which were also introduced in this DLC. The assets included in this DLC are absolutely beautiful, and there are a lot of them, but there are also winter textures placed over the existing assets, which is really stunning. And the DLC comes with trams, which a lot of people really love for their aesthetics, myself included. The DLC also comes with 5 maps, most of which are very good, and one of which, Frozenshire, is absolutely stunning. Honestly, it might be one of the best in-game maps, and a big part of me would love to take these maps and convert them over to non-winter maps and explore them in their full glory. Wow, that is a short list, which brings me to the bad. The functionality included in this DLC is limited due to only being able to take advantage of it on a winter map. This is a huge limitation made worse by not being able to convert an existing map to a winter map without extensive use of mods and a lot of tinkering. The only buildings that carry over to a non-winter map are trams and the tram depot, along with saunas and the road maintenance depot. Unless you're looking to build a city in the North Pole with permanent winter, the cities you create in Snowfall will likely be short-lived. The shtick of the DLC is that you get to take advantage of the new winter weather mechanic. Functionally, this means you'll have to deal with rolling blackouts as everyone turns on their electric space heaters to deal with the horrible winter weather that they're going to be subjected to every single day of their lives. It's also a shame that there aren't non-winter skins for the assets included with this DLC. Why can't the ice fishing pond just be a pond in non-winter maps? Why can't the ice hockey arena, which is completely enclosed, mind you, be accessed in a temperate or tropical build? This is a pretty big disappointment. This also means that much of the fun is contained to a fraction of the maps available in the game. Overall, this DLC is fairly skippable, and we're giving it a score of 18 out of 50. Next up is Natural Disasters, which was the third DLC release for the game. The expansion included 7 different disasters which can completely destroy your city and can be set to occur randomly or be triggered manually when you want to show your Sims who's really in charge. It also includes a new fire spreading mechanic, which we've seen in Verde Beach. In addition to the disasters, the DLC adds 16 new service buildings, 6 unique buildings, a new monument, 5 new scenarios, and 3 new maps that cover the range of climates. The functionality of this DLC is, to say the least, polarizing. Some people look at their cities as their bonsai trees that they carefully and meticulously tend and do not want to see their handiwork destroyed by a randomly occurring disaster. One of the best things about this DLC is that you have control over disasters, whether they occur randomly or not, and whether fire spreading is on or not. If you toggle everything off, you can manually trigger disasters, but you'll have to control the strength and the general location of the disaster. But even if you're not into disasters, it doesn't mean you won't find replayability in the DLC. Helicopter depots, pumping stations, the disaster response unit, and the radio masts are all mainstays of nearly every map that I play on. All of the buildings add a ton of life to your skies and are mainstays of both urban and densely forested rural areas. And some of the unique buildings, such as the Disaster Memorial, are flexible enough to allow creation of somber remembrance parks of a variety of stripes that are found in big cities and small cities. I also absolutely adore the freshwater outlet, since it's the only way to create a water feature in a vanilla build. I've touched on this a bit, but even though there are not many assets in this DLC, the ones that are included are excellent. The earthquake sensor looks just like a utility transformer and can be used to jump power. Radio masts look like TV and radio station towers, or can be used like cell phone towers. The helicopter depots help in almost any build, as can the disaster response units. Even if you aren't using the tsunami buoy, the weather tower, or a deep space radar for their in-game functionality, they can bring a lot of life to the areas that they're placed in. All of that said, while I appreciate the flexibility, it seems like a big miss not to allow players to toggle the types of random disasters that can occur on their map. For example, in my Clearwater County build, a tsunami would never occur and an earthquake is highly unlikely. I'd love to be able to crank up the number of tornadoes and reduce the aforementioned disasters. This omission means that many players are likely to turn off the primary functionality of this DLC, which is silly. It's also incredibly frustrating that the tools for finding and fixing destroyed buildings are clunky. If you have a major disaster, you're going to spend a long time hunting and pecking for buildings that need to be demolished or repaired. And don't get me started on the roads, which can be incredibly difficult to find. Which is another critique of mine. Why do I have to manually repair every single service building, every single unique building, and every single monument after a disaster response unit has searched for survivors? This isn't fun and goes against the core objective of a game, being fun. Lastly, we need to discuss the maps. They're fine. And that's it, they're fine. They cover the full spectrum of biomes but aren't particularly inspired or attractive. I was really hard on this DLC in my initial review video, stating that the DLC is for masochists. And while that might still be true, after playing without it for all but my last videos in the Ultimate Beginner's Guide series, I began to really miss it. Because of that, it's getting a score of 29 out of 50. Next up is Mass Transit, which was the 4th DLC release for City Skylines. The expansion adds 4 new transportation options: ferries, monorails, cable cars and blimps, as well as transit hubs that completely change the way your Sims move through your city. The DLC also comes with 13 service buildings, 3 unique buildings, 11 new roads, 3 scenarios, and 3 new maps. Mass Transit comes with excellent new road options. That's right, my favorite thing about the Mass Transit DLC are the road options that it comes with. It provides asymmetric roads, 2- and 4-lane highways, 2-way, 2-lane highways, local and collector roads with monorail tracks, and large avenues. Large avenues in particular allowed for road diets and right-of-way preservation, two things that were sorely missing before this DLC. And the highway options allow for better lane mathematics with vanilla assets. The rest of the assets included are all very nice looking, even if the ferry stops suffer from unusual water mechanics issues. The transit options included are interesting to say the least. Monorail is incredibly cool, and I find myself using multi-platform train stations in almost every one of my builds. The maps provided in this pack are mostly However, the Seven Lakes map is one of my favorite developer-created maps. It feels so much like home, just looking at it makes me want to start a new build. Shout out to Lee Hoggins, who put together an excellent series of videos using this map, link right here. Now for the bad. This DLC is called Mass Transit, but comes with fairly niche transit options. Cable cars? Neat but unusual. Ferries? Less niche, but they have low capacity and the utilization is kind of weak. Monorails are super cool, but in reality have limited use cases, and they're far too practical in the game. Don't get me started on blimps. What a strange inclusion in this DLC. I wouldn't call them mass transit, and they draw way too many sims, making them nearly unusable. And it's really a shame that some of the forms of transit introduced in other DLCs were not included in this pack. It's also incredibly disappointing that the DLC did not introduce variations for vehicle capacity, something that would have made this DLC a must-buy. Mass transit is important, but not because it gives you a great deal of functionality or great transit options. You'll use assets from this DLC all the time, but when you think of mass transit in City Skylines, it won't be because of this DLC. Because of that, I'm giving it a score of 26 out of 50. Next up is Green Cities, the fifth major expansion for City Skylines. This DLC introduces eco-friendly builds and includes 350 new zonable assets, 14 new city service buildings, 6 new unique buildings, 1 new monument, 3 new scenarios, and 3 new maps. So it has a lot. In my initial DLC video, I was hard on Green Cities because of the lack of grass on pretty much all of the assets. While I still wish that the assets from the DLC would have taken climate into account, adding 350 new zonable assets into your city does a ton to improve the visual diversity of your community. Adding in a few areas of self-sufficient residential homes can make a neighborhood feel very affluent. Organic and local produce commercial buildings can help create farmers markets or an upscale shopping district. And the IT cluster buildings have a mass that can completely transform your downtown while resolving your not enough goods complaints, since the clean upscale buildings produce commercial goods. All of the assets that come with this pack are beautiful and less cartoony than their vanilla counterparts. I love most of the new utility options, the biofuel buses, and the private schools. The community schools, sports hall, yoga garden, they're all great assets that I use all the time too. I've already mentioned that the assets do not include grass, and I think that bears repeating. It is absolutely silly to see a grassless lawn in a tropical environment. I completely understand that in a desert oasis, it might make sense, but for most maps, it doesn't. I'm also a bit dubious on 2 of the utility options, the Eco Water Outlet and the Eco Water Treatment Plant. Why do these options exist? They still pollute, and they aren't as good as some of the inland Eco Water Treatment plants that come with the Sunset Harbor DLC. Come to think of it, why aren't those assets in this pack? As much praise as I've lavished on the assets, I think it's worth mentioning that the growable assets are a bit disappointing in some of the same ways that the After Dark buildings are. There are no high-density options for organic and local produce buildings, nor are there low-density versions of the IT cluster buildings. In fact, the IT cluster buildings offer no progression. They grow in whatever they're going to be instantaneously. This makes Whack-A-Mole more effective, but it's also a bit of a letdown if you want to create an IT office park. I also wish there was an option for electric buses. Biofuel buses are not the future, electric buses are. The maps that come with this DLC are also a bit underwhelming, but they're passable. If you get the Green Cities DLC, you won't regret it, but I doubt that you'll miss it if you don't have it. The assets are nice, especially the recycling centers, but they aren't must-haves like some of the assets from the other DLCs. Most of them are cozy, and you'll use them if you have them without attributing them directly to this DLC. Because of this, I'm giving Green Cities a 34 out of 50. Next up is Park Life, the 6th DLC release for City Skylines and the first to offer modular builds. It introduces 4 modular park options: city parks, nature reserves, zoos and amusement parks, 6 unique buildings, 1 new monument, and 3 city service buildings. In addition, it comes with 5 new maps. In every city, big or small, you will have a unique, special park that makes the city a great place to live, and this DLC allows you to create those parks. The modularity of this DLC is what makes it special, allowing you to create big parks, small parks, remixed parks, and everything in between. Though the feature list of this DLC is small, the time you'll spend on parks is anything but. I find myself enjoying creating fabulous city parks, sprawling amusement parks, and huge nature reserves more than almost anything else in the game. The parks have a leveling mechanic that provides incentive to continue decorating your parks and attracting visitors that either generate revenue or unlock new assets. I love that this DLC gives the opportunity to utilize oddly shaped parcels for uses that improve city value, something that often happens with real parks. These parks can bring areas to life, bringing tons of pedestrian activity to an area. And the hot air balloon tours that come with this DLC activate your skyline and were a nice inclusion. I'm also incredibly happy that the devs recognized that this is a leisure asset, not a form of transit. I'm looking at you, blimps. It's also worth noting that the props and decals that came with this DLC enable you to create stunning plazas or decorate small, oddly shaped parcels in ways that make them special places. But the detailing opportunities with this pack go even further with the inclusion of paths and fences specific to each park type. I also appreciate that the devs dropped 5 maps with this DLC pack, since scenarios really don't fit the vibe of this DLC very well. Now for the bad, I'm going to get nitpicky here because this DLC is so good. I often find that the sightseeing tours that come with this DLC are underwhelming. I don't find them fun to place, and the benefits difficult to quantify. I also think it would be nice to include main gates that are not quite so grand. Many parks do not have substantial transitions between the sidewalk and the parks themselves. It's also a bit disappointing that the assets in this DLC are locked inside of the park areas. Sure, you can get a mod such as Parkify to remove this limitation, or slice and dice park areas to move assets wherever you please, but it would be nice to place a Ferris wheel on a key wall without getting hacky. I would have also loved a way to activate beaches. If you're in an area with any sort of waterfront, you know that beaches are often some of the most important parks in the community. I also think that most of the unique buildings and new monuments included with this DLC pack are a bit gaudy. All of that said, you will use this DLC non-stop. Run. Don't take a leisurely sightseeing route to get this DLC. I'm giving it a score of 48 out of 50. This is a must-buy. Next up is Industries, the 7th DLC release for City Skylines and the second to offer modular builds. The DLC introduces 4 new modular industries, including ore, oil, forestry, and farming. In addition, it introduces 4 new city service buildings, 16 unique factories, 4 warehouses, and 3 new industry road types. It also comes with 5 maps, including Pearl Bay, which I used in the Verde Beach series. Similar to the Park Life DLC, Industries introduces a modular building mechanic for the 4 key industrial sectors, along with supply chain mechanics that add a great deal of complexity and depth to the game. This DLC could be a game unto itself, balancing raw material extraction, processing, and refining them into unique factory goods, all while managing traffic and logistics issues that crop up. Extractors, processors, and factories have different production rates, making the job even more difficult and gratifying. The industry areas that you will create in this DLC are massive, which is a really good thing. Most real-life industrial areas are absolutely massive, and this DLC showcases the scale of these areas. Each industry area has a leveling mechanic similar to the Park Life DLC, which provides incentive to keep improving the industrial areas. The factories in particular are huge and the sizes are varied, creating opportunities for unique roadway layouts that mimic reality much more closer than the vanilla industries. The factories require processed goods from a mixture of buildings, ensuring that you'll be busy creating, at a minimum, processing for each industrial type if you intend to build all factory options. It also introduces the ability to create an industrial-focused city that generates massive revenues on the back of the new industries. The Industries DLC also introduces warehouses and a postal delivery service, a new layer of depth and a good addition for the DLC pack. The pack also can assist with detailing, including a number of new fences, assets, and new industrial roads. The cargo airports pair excellently with both the metropolitan and international airports, included with the Sunset Harbor and After Dark DLCs respectively. The Industries DLC is not without shortcomings. The vanilla mechanic to deplete resources, while realistic, simply isn't fun. spending hours meticulously setting up your perfect industrial area only to find out that you've run out of raw materials can be demoralizing to say the least. Thankfully, you can avoid this mechanic with the unlimited ore and oil mod that is included with this DLC. The DLC can also lead to significant swings in budgets due to the way imports and exports are handled. Though it's very accurate, it can make understanding your budget significantly more challenging, and seeing wild swings in revenue and dramatic losses if raw materials are imported is frustrating. One of my biggest complaints with this DLC is that farms generate too many jobs and have way too much traffic. In practice, this leads me to create one really nice farm and nothing else. The other industries, however, seem to be much more balanced and realistic. The problem is that the farms are the most ubiquitous industry in most cities. Finally, while I lauded the mail processing mechanic, it's pretty surface level and seems to exist only to generate traffic. You don't have to include mail processing buildings in your city, which seems like a missed opportunity. It would have been nice to see some sort of penalty for not including them in your city, and some more obvious reward in your builds outside of improved happiness and land values. Nitpicks aside, this is a really fun DLC, and one that I wouldn't want to play City Skylines without. It just adds so much complexity to the game, and the buildings have such a great scale that it's hard to use Vanilla Industries once you have the Industries DLC. If you have this DLC, you're going to use it in every single build, and because of that, I've given it a score of 47 out of 50. Next up is the Campus DLC, the 8th expansion for City Skylines. Campus allows you to create 3 unique modular college campuses following the same blueprint as Park Life and Industries. These campuses include a trade school, liberal arts college, and a university campus, which each include their own unique assets and faculty buildings that provide general city boosts. The DLC also includes 5 varsity sports buildings, which can be used to either support your college campuses or as standalone pro sports stadiums. In a similar vein, the DLC includes 3 museums which can be placed inside or outside of your campus area. Similar to Parks and Industries, college campuses can vary in size but are generally quite large. This DLC provides the ability to create fully customizable modular campuses. Each college campus has 19 buildings that can be configured however you'd like, and most of the buildings, with a few exceptions, can be reused multiple times. The assets are absolutely beautiful and provide a real sense of scale for a college campus. Best of all, the buildings do not need to be placed on roads, meaning that you can create the pedestrian-oriented campus of your dreams without the need for roads to make it impossible for your students to get from their class to their dorms. And similar to Park Life and Industries, Campus has a leveling mechanic that keeps you playing by encouraging you to level up your campus to unlock new buildings. I really appreciate the flexibility that this DLC offers. With a bit of creativity, you're able to create linked districts to have satellite campuses that spread your educational footprint around a bit. Want a campus that is completely altruistic, offering free healthcare and education? You can do that. Want a campus that focuses on generating maximum profits? You can do that. The DLC also comes with 5 very interesting maps that are well made and attractive, including a European map, something most other DLCs do not include. The ability to create college sports and pro sports teams is incredibly fun too, and a great source of revenue and traffic for your city. But not everything is great in this DLC. This DLC is a little bit like the Ronco Showtime Rotisserie Grill.
Set it and forget it.
Initially, you're going to spend a ton of time building a beautiful campus, but will have little incentive to revisit the build once you put it together. And I say creating a university campus because you'll have little incentive or even ability to create all 3 types of campuses, because one level 5 campus can meet the educational needs of most cities. On that note, it can be very difficult to reach a level 5 campus and can border on being frustrating. This can especially be the case if you already have vanilla universities in your community. Campuses do not provide any additional perks over vanilla universities unless you utilize the unique faculty buildings. These buildings are great, however you'll need a level 5 university for each type of campus to take full advantage of them. Unless your city is massive, this is going to be next to impossible to achieve. One of my biggest sources of frustration with this DLC is that similar to Park Life, you cannot place most of the assets outside of a university district. There isn't a compelling reason that you shouldn't be able to place a laboratory or statue outside of a campus area. The athletic facilities allow this by converting them into city-serving uses, demonstrating that this is technically possible, but it wasn't in the game design docs. All of that said, Campus DLC is fun and the campuses you create will be sprawling and large, However, it isn't as essential as the other modular DLCs in my opinion. Not every city will have a campus, but if your city is built around one, you'll likely appreciate the size and beauty of the campuses that you can create with this DLC. As a result, I'm giving Campus a score of 33 out of 50. Next up is Sunset Harbor, the 9th DLC release for Cities Skylines. Sunset Harbor introduces the fishing industry and new transit options including helicopters and trolley buses, and a number of important utility buildings. It comes with 10 fishing industry buildings, 17 city service buildings including 7 intermodal facilities, 1 unique building, and 3 trolley bus roads. It also comes with 5 very unique, diverse maps. Sunset Harbor DLC has a smattering of buildings that appear to be mostly unrelated to one another and could have easily been included in other DLC packs. Fishing? That could have been in Industries. Intercity terminals, trolley buses, helicopters, the Aviation Club, and the Metropolitan Airport? Those could have been included in Mass Transit. The Inland Eco and Advanced Inland Eco water treatment plants? Those could have been in Green Cities. But I'd look at the diversity of this pack as its strength. You're not going to attribute many of these assets to the Sunset Harbor DLC, but you will miss them if you don't have them. In fact, I'd venture to say that if you picked up one of the other DLC packs and didn't see some of the assets that I mentioned, you might wonder what's wrong with your game. I'd also venture to say that the utility buildings included in Sunset Harbor are some of the best vanilla assets in the game, and I personally can't build a city without the waste processing complex, advanced inland water treatment plant, or the large water towers. The terminals and hubs that come with this DLC are absolutely essential in most cities as well. They're also stunningly beautiful and incredibly detailed. Further, the 5 maps that come with this pack are some of the most unique that come with any DLC. They include biomes not present in other DLC packs, including a desert oasis and a swamp. And my oh my do the fishing boats do a great job of activating a waterfront. Similar to the good comments about this DLC, Sunset Harbor appears to mostly be an unrelated smattering of buildings and assets that could have easily been included in other DLC packs. However, because they were not included in those packs, they failed to make use of the mechanics introduced in those packs. For example, the fishing industry lacks depth, and there is no way to store fish. This is very different than the mechanics of the Industries DLC, which require you to store raw materials. Raw fish either go to the market, or they are exported, or they go to a vague fish factory, which I assume creates fish sticks. The leveling mechanic is also very surface level, allowing you to unlock new types of industry buildings only after you have caught a certain number of fish. This means if you intend to have a tuna-based fishing industry, you're going to be catching a lot of general fish before you're able to fish for tuna. Though I gave the fishing industry props for being able to activate a waterfront, the industry generates way too many boats and incentivizes short, silly routes to be maximally effective. The DLC also includes 2 new forms of transit, both of which are among my least favorites in the game. Helicopters draw way too many passengers since they are a form of general transit, and trolley buses, don't get me started. All of the inflexibility of trams without the beauty. In reality, there is a purpose for trolley buses. They're able to run on hilly terrain, and they can often run short distances without being attached to their electrical wires due to having battery backups. In the game, they do not have this benefit, meaning that they are just reskinned trams. The trolley buses and tram depots even look uncannily similar to one another. Finally, with the name Sunset Harbor and the smattering of assets that could easily fit into other DLCs, it seems as though consideration should have been given to including other water-activating assets into the DLC. A beach park that could easily be dropped onto a sandy beach area would have been a nice addition. A fully modular beach park would have made this a must-buy. It seems as though the focus of this DLC was doing just enough to make it a must-buy. And for the most part, mission accomplished. The sum of the parts is enough to make this a must-buy, even if it does seem like the parts are just rammed together. I'm giving Sunset Harbor a score of 31 out of 50. And last but not least, Airports. Airports is the 10th and most recent DLC release for Cities Skylines as of 2022. It includes the ability to create sprawling airports that are fully modular, similar to Park Life Industries and Campus. It includes 3 passenger airport styles, 3 public transit stations, 16 airport decorations, 4 aircraft stands, a modular cargo airport terminal with airport cargo station, 2 unique buildings, runways and taxiways that you can build to a length of your choosing, and 2 new cargo airport roads. The airports you can create with the Airports DLC are huge, and it provides a much more realistic sense of scale. In reality, Airports operate like their own little cities, and this DLC provides a sense of that. When you begin your airport, the district tool levels the ground and you have the opportunity to pick an airport that matches the vibe of your community. And with the number of terminals available, after you unlock them through the progression mechanic of course, none of your airports will ever look alike. The ability to create your own runways and taxiways provides a great deal of flexibility as well. Transportation is at the heart of this update, which is obvious with the inclusion of metro stations within the larger terminals and concourse hubs, as well as with the inclusion of add-on bus, metro, and train stations that feed passengers directly into your concourses. This mechanic allows you to create an airport free of the snarl of cars often seen at airports here in the US. I also appreciate that taxi stands and bus stops are built directly into the terminals. But the fun doesn't stop at passenger airports, it also extends to cargo airports. Imagine the cargo airport included in the Industries DLC, but completely modular and on steroids. Add in as many aircraft stands, runways, and train stations as you like, and the cargo roads work well and are incredibly attractive. I also love that you can share a runway between a passenger airport and a cargo airport if you'd like to. The decorations included in this DLC are very flexible and incredibly attractive. It also comes with 2 unique buildings, an aviation museum and an airline headquarters building. Both are attractive, but the airline headquarters building allows you to monetize your airport and design your own custom airline. The DLC also comes with new buses and trains that are higher capacity than the normal vanilla assets. This is something that I have wanted forever in the base game. It also comes with 3 maps, which are fine, and it's a nice addition. I feel like Airports lives in this strange place. Not detailed enough for airports enthusiasts, and too detailed for casual players. I will admit to being a bit overwhelmed the first time I played this DLC. There's a lot that goes into designing a well-functioning airport, and I've never really given it much thought. This feeling was compounded by how finicky some of the tools can be. The self-leveling districts work well, most of the time, but sometimes do not perfectly level the ground. The runway creation guides are imperfect and can lead to redrawing runways to get them perfect. And the taxiways? They can be frustrating. Real-world taxiways are bidirectional, and the ones included in this DLC are one-ways. This means that you have to create a well-functioning one-way network within your airport. It's also incredibly frustrating that taxiways cannot cross runways, and that runways can only have one exit and entry point. I assume this was for simplicity, but it's an unnecessary limitation, in my opinion. Though the airplane pathfinding engine was overhauled for the DLC and included in the free update, planes still clip into one another and come and go far too frequently. It would have been nice to see this resolved, but I assume it wasn't possible while still demonstrating that your airport is actually working. I also find it a bit disappointing that a concrete painter wasn't included with this DLC. This can lead to pavements ending abruptly or using hacky solutions to fill in pavements. Similar to the other DLCs, you cannot locate most of the decorations or the unique buildings outside of the airport district. This wouldn't be a problem if the airport districts didn't self-level, but because they do, you can't use the district jumping hack as effectively as you can in industries, parks, or campuses. My biggest frustration, though, is the lack of parking. How is it possible that we get the ability to create massive, sprawling airports taking up as much as 1 of the 9 tiles available to you in the vanilla game without the ability to create a parking lot or a garage to support that airport? It feels like the devs are fighting the power on this one. It doesn't matter what airport you go to, in any country, in any community of any size, you're going to see a parking lot. To focus on transit so much seems a bit idealistic, and while I appreciate this as someone that loves transit, the pragmatist in me would love to see parking. For a DLC that adds so much to realism, this seems like a strange miss. Airports DLC exists in a similar place as Campus DLC for me. This is not necessarily a DLC that you'll use in every city that you build, but it is a DLC that is fun, and I'm giving it a score of 31 out of 50. So let's take a look at my previous list and compare it to this new one. I know there are some changes, but in general, I think it's mostly consistent. My general conclusion is this: the modular build DLCs are some of the best and most important to pick up if you have no DLCs right now, along with After Dark, followed closely by Green Cities. Snowfall has fallen to the bottom of my list, along with Mass Transit, but that doesn't mean that they're bad, they're just for very specific players. What do you think of my list? Would you rank things differently? Let me know down in the comments. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts. Thank you so much for joining me. If you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.